This is my home. Well, and this. But come on, we don't talk about that. And this is the startup that I just built. But why did I choose to do it from here? Hey, my name is Peter. 6 months ago, I was living on the road, working out of coffee shops and national forests and parking lots, trying to figure out how to sustain this lifestyle. But I no longer had an apartment. Wi-Fi was never guaranteed. Showers were also not guaranteed, but probably not going to get into that in this video. And I wasn't really sure even if this idea would work, but I knew I had a goal, and that goal was to build software that could help other people, build a software that could help other creators, and prove to myself that I could do it. So how did I go from this to building this? In this video, I'll share with you how I got the idea, how I built and launched it from the back of this van, and some things I learned along the way that might help you build something of your own. Let's get into it. So about 3 years ago, I was living in an apartment. I had moved to San Francisco, then moved to Denver later. I had a nice, cushy software engineering job, getting paid well, but something just kind of felt off. I realized I wanted more fulfillment in my life. I wanted a life that felt more sustainable for me long-term, something that I could look back on and feel proud of. And so I had experimented with some other things. I had started getting on YouTube, making YouTube videos, actually on this channel, if you want to go check those out. And I had tried on posting on Twitter, but nothing really kind of felt right. And my software engineering job was exciting for the first part, but then it kind of plateaued out. And at that time, I had started to get more into exploring, road tripping, bought a 4Runner, threw a foam pad in the back, and would just go out on road trips, went out to Grand Tetons, Yellowstone, camping out in the mountains of Colorado. And I had realized that the mindset of travel, the discomforts that come with travel, gave me a new perspective, that gave me a new mindset. It made me think differently, and I kind of was running from the comforts of my apartment. I realized that became the villain, and so I decided to double down, buy a van, and jump into the chaos of this life. And after a little while, I started to document my life. I would make videos to myself, and then I started to upload those, and I called them Daily Vs. Nobody watched them except my family. But that process built the consistency, and I learned a lot from that. And I started to realize that the biggest obstacle for me was my own mind. It was my own self-doubt, my own self-confidence. And so I would start posting these videos daily, just kind of documenting my thoughts, 5 minutes, set a timer, that kind of thing. Just share what I'm thinking about. And it was through that process that I realized I kept running out of video ideas. I wasn't looking for good video ideas. I was just looking for things to talk about in my daily life. And I wanted something to help me with that. And so I really wanted a system that could help me and help me stop kind of just guessing what I should talk about, and maybe start finding what actually works and what actually resonates with people. But at the same time, there's so much data out there on the internet, on YouTube. It was very overwhelming for me. Anytime I would do a little bit of research, jump on YouTube, see what's working, read through comment sections, it's just like there's so much out there that I knew that I could build something that could take that overwhelm out of it. I wanted something that would just synthesize it all down for me, for my channel, personalize it to me, and I knew I could at least start and see where it goes. So I ended up building this algorithm using the API that would look at YouTube comments and see all of these, and basically find all of these unanswered YouTube comments on other people's channels that are like, oh, you should make a video about this, or talking about content ideas or questions that people ask that could be very well new YouTube video ideas. And I built a UI for that and showed it to a friend who was making YouTube videos. And he really saw the vision in that. He was like, this is very helpful. I wish it would just do the next step for me of like, tell me what to post and like what video ideas to make. And he really pushed me to kind of double down and push forward with this, and then built an algorithm that would look at what's working, what titles, what topics, and combine basically all of these together. Built a UI for it and realized that it was like the perfect combination that would just give me endless new video ideas based on what's working and have the audience comments to back it up. And that's when I realized that this could be useful for more than just me. So that was basically why I built it. Now let me explain to you how I built it from the back of this thing. So all this time I was living from different places around the world, honestly. I was in Southeast Asia for a couple months at the start of this year. I flew back to the US to get back in my van on the East Coast. I flew out to Granada, Spain at one point, and then went back to my van, drove it out west to where I am now. And I would work from anywhere, honestly, coffee shops, hostels, national forests, places like this, parking lots, Walmarts. I ended up building the first parts of the algorithm in Phuket, Thailand. And while I was back in my van on the East Coast, I built a lot of the UI and put it all together. I was in Vermont, New York, spent a lot of time in Asheville. Then I ran my first kind of beta launch for my first users while I was in Granada, Spain for a month. And then after that, I flew back to the US, got back in my van and drove it out west and built basically the whole thing, rewrote it from the ground up, from scratch, scaled it up while I was in the mountains of Colorado. Gorgeous, gorgeous views out there. So I bought the van from the guy who built it out, but I ended up renovating the back of the van where the bed is, lowered the bed and made it removable so I could put a table there to work from. And bought Starlink and got solar panels on top of the van to charge batteries, upgraded the batteries, really built it out, renovated it so it's like conducive to working rather than it was more for mountain biking, exploring for this. So now in winter, depending on how much charge I can get, out here for maybe, it's usually like 4 to 5 days. I could probably squeeze out 6 to 7 if I really charged up my batteries as much as they could be. Summer is completely different story, but just very grateful to be out here in the sunshine of Arizona. And interestingly, I kind of found routine in working. It was the stability I needed in a very unstable life, but that was kind of by design. The discomfort, the chaos was a choice that I made. It was the kind of pendulum swing, the two extremes of having a very unstable life, but also, wanting that routine, wanting that stability. And so I found that very helpful for me, but obviously not without its difficulties. Finding coffee shops with bad Wi-Fi or no outlets to charge from, hostels that were just not good to work from, spending a lot of time driving, a lot of time in parking lots, finding camp spots that weren't good for solar or Starlink, running out of battery charge. Honestly, there's a lot of logistics that goes on behind the scenes of living this lifestyle that I never really understood, never really realized until I was kind of fully in it. So building my software from here was one thing. Launching it was a whole other thing. When I was back in Granada, Spain, I ran my first kind of private beta round of feedback. I started in school communities, reaching out to people, getting people in, getting their feedback, and I was following Alex Hormozi's strategies from $100 Million Leads, his book, and they kind of just worked. I felt confident in the message that I was sharing, in the ask that I was providing with the scripts, and then the feedback started to come in, the testimonials started to come in, and people were telling me how insane it was and how quickly they were getting new video ideas, and that was honestly very meaningful to hear. And so most recently I started to more seriously use my software myself, and all I'm going to say is I'm very excited for this next chapter. It's going to be a lot of fun. Bought this chair from Walmart for $19.99. It's been an absolute champ. So what did I learn from all this? I would say first that I feel like I'm not done, nowhere near done. In fact, I feel like I'm just starting out, but at the same time, I've learned a lot from this experience, from this journey that I've been on. And so I figured I would just kind of take a snapshot and share some of those learnings, direction, passions, meaning, fulfillment, all things about life and things that I'm interested in, and share that with you today. The first lesson, and the biggest for me, is that happiness comes from progress towards a meaningful goal. I've heard this before, and I wanted to tweak this a little bit for myself, and saying that fulfillment comes from progress towards a meaningful goal. I think the more that you move towards being of service to other people, and the more that your end goal becomes something that is meaningful to you and your future, I think you move more from positive emotion and happiness to something like meaning and fulfillment. I had spent a lot of time thinking about fulfillment when I was in my job, and I kind of experienced that the more I thought about how to live a fulfilling life, the more the kind of waters got muddy, if you will. And as soon as I jumped into this, the chaos of this life, and started working towards a goal that felt meaningful to me, I realized and started noticing that I was feeling meaning and feeling fulfillment from just moving towards that goal, and not necessarily from hitting achievements or hitting goals. And the more that I talk to people, whether through conversations, ideas, helping people, having people use my software and help them, I realized I felt a lot more meaning from that than my previous life. The second learning lesson that I've had is to make the most of your focused time opportunities. I realized that life on the road takes up a lot of time and mental space. There's a lot of logistics, from finding camp spots, managing batteries, errands, making sure you have enough water, gray water, battery. And I realized that there were a lot of times where I just kind of had to cut my losses and take what I could get. Many times it would be like, okay, I have 3, 4, or 5 hours to work in the morning, and that was my golden period, my sacred time. And sometimes the afternoon just ended up being a wash. Whether I had to drive somewhere new, do errands, I didn't have enough battery, or had to do administrative stuff. And I realized I had to be more lenient with myself and accept that I would just make the most of the opportunities that I had. It was about 3 years ago, while I was working my job, I would go on weekends and work from coffee shops in the morning. Maybe Saturday, Sunday rolls around, and I would wake up early, go to a coffee shop, do a whole bunch of journaling, budgeting, finances, administrative stuff, just make progress towards this life that I'm living now. I spent a lot of time journaling if making this decision would be worth it for me. It ended up being worth it. But that habit, that skill of learning to work from coffee shops, I found was foundational for this. Learning how to work from different environments has been incredibly valuable. And my third lesson is, if you have a problem, there's a good chance that someone else also has that problem. But at the same time, the most valuable thing that you can do is talk to people. I found that it's a great start to solve your own problems, but the question becomes, how many other people have that problem? How big of a pain is it for them, and what's their willingness to pay? And all of those are things that you figure out from actually talking to them. It was about a year ago. I was doing some research, looking for an opportunity, and found a potential opportunity with travel bloggers. But the thing was, I focused all of my attention on reaching out and talking to people, and I didn't build anything. And it was through those conversations that I realized that the pain wasn't really there, and the willingness to pay wasn't really there. Talking to people about, how is this process? Is it time consuming for you? Is it annoying? Is it frustrating? Stuff like that. That was incredibly valuable for me, and I found the same thing in this process I'm going through now. And so just talking to people has been incredibly valuable, but at the same time, solving your own problems is a great start. And a little pro tip that I have, 2 years ago, I started every night, spend like 60 seconds, 2 minutes, thinking about a problem that I had that day, either had faced, had solved, had seen, had come up with, just anything. Whether it's like, how do I find a coffee shop with good Wi-Fi? Or how do I find a place to camp? Like, whatever it is, could be small, could be big, doesn't really matter. But I found that getting in the habit of identifying problems and opportunities got me into a mindset of looking for opportunities. And I found that I was finding more in my daily life from that activity. But honestly, I feel like I've learned the most from doing things that I find hard, living a life that is uncomfortable or that has discomforts baked into it, and just starting and then iterating from there rather than trying to figure out the perfect start. So, from the back of my van to a fully functioning software, this has been my journey so far. What's next? I am going through a bit of a rebrand of my YouTube channel, making some more videos, interesting videos, and more intentionally making videos, and looking to scale up my software. I'll be flying abroad very soon, so it'll be very interesting if you care to stick around. This is my story of why I built my software, how I built it from the back of my van here, and how I launched it, and some things that I've learned. If you're also building something big, subscribe. We're in this together, and I'll see you in the next one.